Hello, Yes But Why listeners. This is your host, Amy Jordan. Welcome to Yes But Why episode 271, my chat with improv artist and social entrepreneur Vishok Verma. But first, let's talk about our sponsors. Yes But Why podcast is sponsored by Audible. Sign up today for your 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. You get a free audiobook download as well as access to hundreds of books and podcasts. And every month, you get a new credit to use to buy any of their premier selections. You know what? I think I still have mine unused in my account. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, I'm going to buy something from my wish list. No. Okay, here we go. I'm going to buy the book Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. I've heard it was good. I want to check it out. And boom, I did it all with my Audible account. So easy. Go now to audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy to sign up and get your account today. Yes But Why podcast is also brought to you by podcastcadet.com. Podcastcadet.com is the company that my husband and I run to help podcasters. If you're in Houston, connect with us at Comic Palooza. We'll be doing a podcast boot camp in the Podcasters Pavilion this Saturday morning. Come meet us and see what's up with us. We want to help you start or improve your podcast. Just let us know what we can do. Oh, and don't forget to mention the code YBY20 and you'll get 20% off the first service or workshop you buy. We can't wait to meet you. Podcastcadet.com. Yes But Why podcast is also brought to you by True Hemp Science. True Hemp Science is our Austin-based resource for vegan-friendly whole plant extract CBD oil. Check out truehempscience.com to see all the CBD products available to you now. Use code YesButWhy7 to get 7% off your order of $50 or more. You get all the therapeutic goodness of CBD, plus you'll get a free packet of 2 yummy CBD edibles with your order. truehempscience.com. This week on Yes But Why, I talked to Vishok Verma. Vishok is the founder and CEO of Let's Express, an organization that uses improvisational games and other performing arts exercises to help kids in the disadvantaged areas of India. In our conversation, we talk about performing improv, writing, and social entrepreneurship. I now present to you Yes But Why episode 271, Vishok Verma on bettering society through the performing arts. Enjoy. I'm Amy Jordan, and this is Yes But Why podcast. Yeah.
So as far as I remember, it was like I felt very bored around a lot of people doing stuff here and there. So I thought I'll do some drawing, and it turned out really terrible. Because and if someone asked me to draw a man or a woman or something, as you like start in childhood, I would just draw 2 small balls and connect them with a line and make cross hands like this. And I would like, now I can't draw more. What to do? I don't have any other option now. At the most I could draw a house and a small scenery with a waved river, draw waves and call it a river and things like that. And then I would like, and then people would make fun of me, and I would like, no, I want to show that I can do something. I'm very competitive right from my start. So I would like, okay, I would write better. I would write something now. And somehow the writing thing came to me very spontaneously. Like I could, if I write something, languages and all, it would interest me a lot. So I would sit and write all the time, and create stories in my head, and try to present them, try to narrate them here and there. Especially like an Indian film hero, something like relate mix 2 stories together and present it to an audience of like 2 or 3 children and I would feel myself, oh, I am the hero here. I am the hero in this context. So all that peer validation thing, it was right there from the start. I wanted to be famous. So, yeah.
Peer validation, competitiveness. Yeah, you're ready. Yeah, you're ready.
So, yes, it all came to me right from the start. I just wanted to be famous wherever I wanted to go. And something that came naturally to me was writing and, making people laugh and making myself laugh. I would honestly talk to animals in funny ways. Like if a dog is trying to make faces, I would try to make faces with the dog and like compete with the dog. I can make better faces than you. I am more creative than you. So all those things came up, and and later on I was searching for some art that gives me peace. So I used to write poems occasionally, a little bit of short stories, but I never presented them here and there.
Did you just keep journals?
Not every day, honestly, not regularly.
No.
Whenever I feel the mood, so whenever I feel like, okay, now I have a lot of things in my head and I need to vent it out.
Yeah.
What's the best way? I can't shout. People will come and beat me.
Sure.
People will think that I am a mad person. So what shall I do? Okay, I shall move around here and there. I'll go for a walk. Still, it doesn't work. Then finally, I'll feel like, okay, now I shall write, and something something better comes out.
Yeah.
I feel that, okay, the better pieces comes out.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I totally understand. I do not journal on a regular basis, but I do have one journal that's just for really angry, mean things. So if I'm very upset and angry and I can't tell anyone the thoughts in my head, this is what the journal is for. Here's the trouble. I hide this journal because I want no one to find it ever. It's terrible. You know what I mean? Because I just need to get negative thoughts out sometimes, and there's just nowhere to put them. So I totally appreciate this idea that you're talking about having to get something out. There's so much, there's all these ideas. There's all this tension. What do I do with it? I write it, right? So that's really cool. That's awesome. I also feel like this allies with something you were saying earlier about having an artist flow personality, right? So both of us are not writing every day. It's not like a regular all the time thing. It's when the muse moves us, when we're I have to do it, and that's such an artist thing. So
yes,
yeah,
it's I'm born in this world for this moment, to embrace this moment and to do this writing thing at this moment. This is my purpose in life. That's how we are driven, I believe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There's definitely a sense of destiny and purpose when you're doing art, I find as well.
Yeah.
You're this is exactly what I wanted to do. If you get yourself set up in a good project where it just, ticks off all the things on your list of what I would really want, man, those are the best. When you're working on something and you're yeah, this feels right. This is good. I love that stuff.
Yeah, actually, especially art is mostly, if I have to say you, if you're reading academics and you're okay with academics, your academic subjects, maths and science and other things, you'll be okay, I can score well in these subjects and it's fine. But these things do not provide me much of happiness. They don't make me feel that I'm in the moment right now. But if you do even a little piece of art, whatever it is, be it a small drawing, or be it a small story, or be it a small performing art thing, you just feel that, okay, I lived this moment. Yeah. I have enjoyed this moment. And that is something about art that I really love, whatever art it is.
Yeah.
Even if you're knitting a sweater and if you're trying to draw a small piece of a small flower on it, but that particular moment, it feels contentment, it feels like fulfillment.
Yeah.
That moment feels like fulfillment.
Yeah, you're creating something, you're developing your own, sense of self in that moment. Yeah, totally. This is why I not only do art, but I almost exclusively talk about art. So this is why this is my main topic. I am very much into it. So you're writing poetry and short stories. Do you still write?
Yeah, I keep on writing, but now I get a little bit of less time because I'm more involved in the social venture I want to scale up.
Sure.
But anyway, but I still, whenever I get even fire, whenever I get this thing that, okay, now I want to write something, even if it's positive also, most of the time, it's not about venting out all the time. So I will write it. And I've written short plays, for a lot of short plays for my school, for my school people, when I was in school, when I was in college, and they were mostly humorous in nature. I don't like serious things. I don't honestly like to write serious things more much. It's more about enjoy. Even the most serious of things can be taken lightly and they can be enjoyed. I have a bad habit of laughing at serious moments, to be honest.
Me too. I like breaking the tension of a serious moment. I'm definitely always that person. And I don't mind embarrassing myself for that purpose, it's fine. It's not going to hurt me to be embarrassed. Let me just do this. It'll help everyone.
Yes. It's like, I want to do this. Embarrassment is just a small thing in relative to this thing. What is embarrassment? It's more of my moment. I want to have it. Let it be an embarrassment for the other people. Let it be. I'm so desperate for this moment.
Yeah. Bringing it back to you wanting to be famous again. You're like, all eyes on me. Look at it. Yes. I know that you feel bad, but I feel good.
Yeah. I will express myself even if you throw your head on the wall, even if you beat your head on the wall, I will express myself. Even if you feel bored, it is your problem that you are bored. I am Napoleon. If you like me, raise your hand.
Oh my God. So funny. So when did you get into comedy? Were you doing comedy like even as a little kid? Were you making jokes for your family? Or did you get into it in school? When you said you were writing your short plays, were you already being funny all the time? And then it just was like, someone was like, hey, that's a funny idea. Write it down. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, basically it's a combination of all of what you said. Yeah, I would tell you that way. So what happened is initially comedy comes to me naturally. Like I'm always living a story in my head. Even in my school, if someone was doing something, I would look at it as a story from an observer perspective or whatever we call it. Now I know it was an observer's perspective. But before I used to enjoy it as a story, people doing a lot of stuff. Okay, this is a story, and now I can exaggerate something out of it, create a scene out of it in my head. So I always used to create scenes by observing things around me, and that's how things started to develop. And I was in school. We do not have a regular comedy class or a regular skit class, whatever it is. I don't.
Me neither. I didn't have any of that in school.
Yeah, our school system is not yet developed that way. But it was like whenever people wanted to create something funny or have a play, I would just jump and I would like, I want to act. Please let me. Please take me. I want to act. I just want to be there. I want all eyes on me. I am such an attention seeker. Please let me. And all these expressions and everything, they would just come out like funny expressions and all. And people would always take me for the comic role or something. Seriousness is something that may come out, but it was always like being a comic all the time, enjoying that moment. So, and then people realize, okay, this guy is at least creative to write some funny jokes. So I wrote 2 or 3 plays in school and they turned out to be funny for people and I acted in them as well. And then, okay, now I have this peer validation in school. I'm a star here. Like I'm a sports person here. I'm a drama writer here. Okay, my school is done. I am happy. Academics, okay. then let it be a thing of the world. Then I go into college, and there also in 2-3 years I do not get an opportunity to write a play, to act in a play and all. And I'm waiting desperately. I want to do it. What is this engineering college all about? So, like, I've joined this engineering college by my choice to learn engineering, but I'm waiting desperately for a performing art thing. So that was something. And it's just like 2 or 3 plays we wrote there also. And people, and I still remember, those were the plays that really inspired me to do some comic things and, pursue comedy some way in my life all the time. Those plays really inspired me. Like the laughs in the auditorium, people were so embraced in the moment, and everyone was like, this is something we really wanted to watch. This made our day. And that feeling of seeing the happiness in people's eyes and faces made me realize that, okay, even if I don't make it good, I shall try to do it all my life, because it suddenly gives me happiness and it makes people happy. And then, when I got into this company called Infosys, when I started working for a company called Infosys after my college days. And throughout my life, there has always been like, when you observe things, you feel depressed as well. So comedy has always been a defense mechanism also from negative emotions. So it helped me not to host negative emotions for a long time and change them into an opportunity to laugh and, create something better out of it. I've always made fun of my negative emotions all the time. So when I started this, when I was working for this company called Infosys, things were not going really well for me. So I was trying to see, okay, are there any co-curricular activities here? Like not co-curricular, like extra job activities which people really enjoy doing after their work is done. So I used to keep on searching here and there around the auditoriums. So every evening I would go near the company's auditorium and see if there is something happening around, and it should be free. I don't want to pay money for it. I'm a big fan of freebies. So there was one day there was a banner around outside the auditorium, and they say there's a comedy show happening and all the employees are invited to watch it for free. And I'm like, this is my chance. I was waiting for it. And it just happened that when I entered, it turned out to be an improv comedy show.
Oh, wow. Good for that company. How progressive to be like, yeah, let's hire an improv group to do a show.
Yeah, actually, they didn't hire the improv comedy group. Basically, what happened is there were certain employees in the company who were interested in improv comedy. They formed a group among themselves, and they used to meet every Monday and practice for an hour. Improv comedy.
Good for them.
And for their better practice, they used to perform a show and call a professional improv comedy professional, also professional improv comedy artist to become an improv master for their show, and they would just perform. And the host would be a professional. So that was a really nice idea. So when I entered that auditorium, I realized that there are people in the company who are doing this. I said, I want to perform right now. I want to participate. And fortunately, in improv, audiences also get a chance to perform. So the improv master at that moment was a great guy, Abhishek Desai, and his enthusiasm was so, I would say, contagious. He was ebullient with enthusiasm, and I felt like, okay, I want to be like this guy any day in my life, at least when I'm performing. Now I want to get rid of all the negative depression that is bothering me now, and I want to be like this guy. And he called the audience on the stage, and I was like, I raised my hand, I said, I want to be there. And that moment when I experienced improv comedy, I was like, okay, now this is my moment. This is what I really wanted to do. Theater is something I like, but improv is making stuff, and the moment is something I really want to do. I relate to it a lot.
Yeah.
And I felt like this Pursuit of Happiness moment. If you remember that, if you have watched this movie, Pursuit of Happiness,
yeah.
At the end, Will Smith's after becoming that stockbroker by making a lot of effort, Will Smith says, "This was my happiness moment. I felt this moment in my life. It is complete. It is perfect in many ways, and this is my pursuit of it." So that was my pursuit of my happiness moment, and I realized, okay, I will stay connected with this art form of comedy, improv art form. Whatever art form other art forms I pursue, but I will stay connected to this art form, and that has went on, and somehow I stay connected with improv even though I'm not able to do shows with a lot of groups or something, and their post graduation also came by, but I've stayed connected with improv in a lot of ways, and it keeps me happy, and it at least does not allow negative emotions to govern me all the time.
Yeah.
I know ways to laugh at my negative emotions.
Yeah.
I just if I am having this negative emotion, there's another friend of mine. How would he act this negative emotion on the stage?
Oh, nice.
I would be like happy, imagining all those performances in that way. So I always believe that, I can enact this emotion this way, I can enact this emotion that way.
Yeah.
And it always evident, it does help to
absolutely
manage them well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I have a story running in my brain as well, forming and turning everything that I'm seeing into like a movie. As I'm walking around, it's like, oh, it's raining. Oh yeah, it's so dark. Oh, I'm so serious. Look at me. I'm walking. I'm a serious lady. I'm totally thinking about this stuff. And you're right. Because I am always thinking about performing, when I have a really big negative emotion, I am often thinking about, I look at myself in the mirror. Yes. I look at myself in the mirror to see what I'm doing because I'm afraid I won't remember it when I want to do it on stage. I'm like, oh, I am super angry right now. And I'm like, look in a mirror. What's that face? You're going to recreate that face later. Yes. And I try to learn that. And, I actually teach level 1. So when I teach improv, I'm always teaching beginners. And I always talk about emotions in that way, almost the exact same way you're referring in that. I tell them as an acting technique. Number one, when people start taking an improv class, the first thing that they're nervous about with me is acting. They're like, listen, I can do these exercises and I can be funny, but I'm not an actor. And I was like, we're all actors. It's fine. Let me just show you what things you need to worry about. And I go, really? The only acting you need to do is to communicate with your friends here. There's 10 people here. As long as they know what you mean while you're acting, it's good. You don't have to be Meryl Streep. You don't have to be the best actor in the world. No. If you tell them that crossing your arms means I'm really angry, great. Then next time you're on stage and you cross your arms, you're letting your scene partner know you're really angry, right? You've established and communicated with them, guys, my visual cue for anger is going to be this. So you don't have to be super angry guy. You just cross those arms and then they're like, what's going on, man? Why are you angry? Because they know what you're communicating, right? So I was like, you don't have to do that. That being said, some of us are deeply involved in acting and want to make our faces really emote the whole thing. So I stare at myself in the mirror all the time. And I think about different emotions and I see what they do to my face. And I try in one of the classes, I like to focus on emotions and I try to make them make those faces, really think about something sad or whatever. And then make the face that expresses sadness to you. And then I say, everybody look at each other's faces. This is what this scene partner's sad face is. This is what and there's no one right way to do it at all. No way. Your way is your way. And in improv, it's all just about communicating and knowing, he's got his lips are all tight. that means he's sad. That's what he does. That's his sad face, a little lip tight. That's just what he does, right? I know it because we've worked on it, and I'm communicating with my scene partner. So now I'm like, hey, man, why are you sad? I'm real sad. That's just the way it is. They develop that. I love the fact that you're, the stories in your head and you're working on these emotions. How have you used your, you were very interested in this improv comedy. Did you stay at the same company and get involved in this improv performing group?
Yes, actually, if I have to tell you, I got involved with this improv comedy group in the company when I was serving my notice period. So there were only 3 months left for my, I resigned from that company because I was getting bored in that company. I didn't see much of intellectual growth for myself. I didn't see a lot. For me, money and all is fine, but it will come.
Sure.
If you make certain effort, it does come. But there should be a little bit of fulfillment on the basis of thoughts and expression and all that. So I was not feeling intellectual fulfillment there. And I was searching, I realized that I was searching for it at the wrong place.
Yeah.
So I was serving my notice period there. And then I got to know about this improv group. So it was a 3-month notice period. 15 days had already gone. So I had just 2 months stint with all these people. And they used to practice every Monday, 6-7 practices. And I performed 2 shows with them. And fortunately, they were so engrossed in their learning that it helped me to learn quickly. And maybe I also had all these emotions and everything all the time running in my head. So I was able to emote well. I had 2 shows with them in the same company. And at the same time, the professional comedy groups which used to perform in Bangalore back in 2017. So there were very few in number. They also used to ask people to participate in jams and all. So I fortunately got a chance to perform in an improv jam with Improv Comedy Bangalore. And that was one of a very good improv comedy group in Bangalore at that time. Still, it is a very good comedy group here now. So I was feeling very privileged, and that's how I got to learn to perform improvisation. I learned through short form improv games. So I never went to a class, and that group had its death because all the employees, that company's group had its death because all the employees, they switched to other companies.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Do you keep in touch with any of those people?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
They were my saviors in, honestly, if I have to recount, those were certain bad days in my life, if I say depression days, where I didn't find growth. And I was searching for some recluse and some art that can help me out, because I honestly didn't have the real courage to pursue art as a professional in those days. So I was searching for some competitive exams that can help me to get into a better post-graduation college, give me a better name and a little bit of money, because that's how I come from a small town. So, that's how we are molded to, like, find a better job for yourself, and at least do something that gives you money and feeds your stomach well.
Yeah.
Art and all can happen.
Yeah.
This is not something, these are not professions. These are mostly hobbies. Yeah. Art is something of hobby. So I was trying for all those things as well.
I have talked to people all around the world, and I would say across the board, there is that sense of art is a hobby. You need to get a job with money. Like, everybody's mother in every country everywhere is like, but why don't you get a job with money? Some of us don't listen.
And some of us don't listen. We just can't stop our creative self to do it, to get engaged with it in some way. So I realized, then somehow life threw an opportunity to me that, follow a post-graduation course in social entrepreneurship, and then benefit people through improvisation. So the crossover happened, the conjecture happened, and I'm still able to involve myself with improv in a way that gives me the maybe an illusion that okay, I'm able to follow a conventional career, and also it also gives me a hope that I can continue with improv all my life in professional ways.
Sure, absolutely, you can. It's also, not only is it a lot more prevalent these days, I mean, number one, there's a lot more of it in general. Number two, because we're all on Zoom like this, and like even just online, like you and I happen to be in the same jam, the most insane connection of like meeting each other is like, I'm in one random city in the world, you're in another random city in the world, and we are doing a show for a third random city in the world. Like, what? So the connection globally is happening in a great way. Like the fact that we get to play together and like be together and learn. And the other thing, especially you were talking about using improv professionally, which I have questions about in a moment, but the idea that even that's a thing now. Like, it used to just be like, improv's just fun, have a good time. And sometimes it was the short form games like you're talking about. Sometimes it's the longer scenes. Sometimes it's comedy. Sometimes it's drama. But now there's all these professional stuff, which is like helping doctors and like helping executives and like helping, children make, develop mentally and stuff. And it's like, this is great. The more clout improv gets as a like real tool for executives and doctors, hey man, we start seeming cool, much cooler than we were before. People are like, what are you guys doing? And now we're like, I don't know if you know, but we're saving the world one surgeon at a time. We're pretty great.
Actually, honestly, I have two things to say. In this regard. The first thing is, actually now, as the improv as an art is evolving over the years, the improvisers tend to realize and observe that everything in life we do, every moment is improvisation. And now it's easier to find connections with every moment in life to improvisation. Like even if a small tap is not working at your home, and you try to fix it, that's also improvisation in some way. People improvise throughout their life. Now it's a realization that is becoming more and more evident in certain ways, and we are able to find concrete relations between the improvisation acts. It's not only related to comedy, but general life, daily life in general. We are able to find concrete relations, correlations, regressions, whatever you call it, between improv and daily life. And that is making us more aware. And the other thing what I really wanted to say is about global connections developing for improvisation. And, online art, improv is developing online in in numerous ways and in very creative ways as well. We are finding ways to express ourselves online in the same way as we could have done on the stage. But at the same time, I would say I have learned more improvisation in the pandemic year than I would have learned offline, because I'm able to connect to new people all the time and do new scenes with new characters and new styles. Everyone has a different style.
Yes.
If I do improv with one particular group only, after a certain period of time, I will get habituated to the actions and emotions of my group members. And in certain way, my spontaneous actions could be predicted. But if I do it globally, it becomes real improvisation in its own essence. And the other thing is, 1 year before, if you ask me, my post-graduation was just finished, and I was wondering how I could get back into improv and how I can practice it better. I would have to go to stage and join a particular group, and that would take 5-6 months. And how would I learn? I would have not imagined in my head, with all the story power that I have in my head, that one day I will meet Miss Emmy Jordan from USA, and we would be improvising together in an online jam.
Right?
You know, that is certain. I couldn't have vaguely imagined.
Absolutely not. That group that we were improvising with had there were 4 different countries represented. It was wild. You know what I mean? Yes, exactly. Yeah. The opportunity to connect with each other is so much more now. It's so great.
Yeah. Actually, improvisers have converted an adversity into an opportunity by using online Zoom meetings better for themselves.
Yeah.
By using in a better way. I honestly, in 3 years, how much I could have done offline. There are very less improv groups in India. They are improving in number day by day. But how much I could have joined 4 or 5 groups. I could have tried to jam with 4 or 5 groups, tried to become a permanent member of one group, and could have learned few games and could have performed in some locations. But I could have not got the opportunity to learn from a lot of people globally. At least now, you get it for free also. Money is also a factor when you learn art. Not everyone can afford to, maybe, Miss Amy, you might be charging some fees which I couldn't afford if I have to join your class. But now, because of Zoom and improv have to be done online, we are able to connect with each other, forgetting that money constraint, and able to express and connect with each other well. Yeah. So that's how connections are also getting developed. So it's like every problem is an opportunity. Yeah. You just need to use it well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So improv teaches us that. And that's how we are able to translate our learnings in different spheres of life, in different professions. And we are able to make different professionals aware about the wonders of improv.
Yeah, and how helpful it is for them to do their kind of stuff. Like we were talking about advertising earlier. Ad people love improv. It's a great way to brainstorm new funny ideas to sell chocolate, they love the idea that it exercises their brain and helps them come up with ideas faster. So good. So you mentioned that in your postgraduate work, you have had an opportunity to use improv. Tell me how you used improv in your studies.
Yes. So in my post-graduation, my post-graduation was based on social entrepreneurship. So we have to design certain business models that benefit the community which you target, and as well as earn a money for the enterprise which you are working on, and sustain yourself as well. So it's like involving with the community. And me as a kid, I hate technical stuff. I don't like involving with math or science too much. Or maybe actually if I have to really confess, I cannot do maths or science as well as compared to language. So I've always been connected to language and expression more as compared to technical stuff. So I was in a dilemma as to how to contribute to the society and how to, how I can make a business model also that benefits society and gives me satisfaction. I realized that the only way I can do it is imparting my language and performing art skills to people who have never experienced it much, who do not have access to all these skills, people from underprivileged kids, underprivileged teenagers, and people from socioeconomically disadvantaged sections. Mostly they improvise throughout their life. They are caught in very difficult life conditions. For them, daily survival is the norm. They don't know if they'll get food on their plate for dinner. They have to fight for it every day. And they improvise difficult life situations. So I realized that these people are actually very good artists at heart. And even I come from a town where you don't see much economic progress. There are very less chances of economic progress. And there's less exposure to art and other things. And as I migrated to bigger cities and I lived there, I realized the power of art, that how it enables you to learn your subjects and your professions better. So I realized that maybe I can create a business model where I can incorporate performing arts teaching and benefit people in their learning, especially the teenagers. And I can create a model that helps them to use their performing arts learning and their subject-wise learning in their daily lives, that aspires them to dream better. So in that way, I try to make a business model where I can teach kids, where I can bring improvisation and other performing arts like theater, storytelling, puppetry, skit creation and all to the kids. And, use these performing arts to make the kids realize that they are artists in themselves. And it's not essential for these kids to become an artist in future, but use these learnings from the art to enable themselves in socio-emotional learnings, like important life skills like communication, empathy, collaboration, critical thinking, self-esteem, and creativity in its own right. So all these skills, these are listed skills, socio-emotional learning skills listed by United Nations, which is important for children in the 21st century. So if I can use all these skills, if I can use performing arts to develop these skills in children, they can have better dreams for themselves, they can aspire for better career avenues, and it will impact their community in better ways. They can come out of the cycle of daily survival. So I combine my social entrepreneurship education to make this model of teaching profitable through community intervention for the teenagers, and impact the life of these teenagers so that they can change their lives. They can come out of a daily survival cycle, which their families have been doing for generations. So, and it benefited a lot of people, and it gave me confidence to pursue this on a larger scale. So right now I'm trying to scale it up. And actually, honestly, I tried an experiment in college also. So there were a lot of people in my college who were not able to use English as a better. So for our college, we had to write assignments in English. We have to write our assignments and submissions in English. But English is not our mother language most of the time. So English turns out to be our second language. And improv is a great tool to learn any language. Especially if you don't like language, if you don't like to learn language in conventional ways, if you immerse yourself in improv and customize short form improv games for learning better communication techniques and language, it becomes a very engrossing tool. So I designed a communication club in college and in my post-graduation college, and a lot of people who were facing problems with English language comprehension, speaking it and writing it in better ways, and even reading it. So they experienced a lot of difference in their life when I customized improv games for communication. And I utilized all these learnings and customized them further to use it in a different context for teenagers, from like underprivileged kids. So every context requires you to customize your learnings, customize your model so that you can benefit them better and immerse with the community better. So I've dealt with I constantly customize my own learnings, and I constantly customize the business model also for impacting people better.
Wow, that's great. So you were describing the performance art learning idea that you had with the business model. I didn't realize, I thought this was kind of like a paper that you wrote, but no, this was a full-on project. You did teach all these kids.
Yes.
Wow. For how long? Like, what was the experience?
I'm still teaching.
Oh, you're still teaching?
Yes. I'm still teaching those kids. And I have taught around, as of now, I couldn't scale it up because of the pandemic situation that happened after my post-graduation. But before that, if I have to tell you, it started as a pilot project. I was having all this idea in my mind. I want to contribute to the society, and how can I do it? I want to excel in my course as well, and I want to utilize my learnings as well. So after my first year ended, we are supposed to have a pilot project, like implement our business idea in a pilot way and have a pilot testing of it. Like take around 10-15 people, take a small community and test your idea there. So even before that, we went for a field immersion project in a small district city in India. So there we were dealing with the children of sex workers. We were realizing the life of sex workers and how their lives are impacted in numerous ways, and their children related to them in some way. And these kids were thoroughly underprivileged. These kids came from thoroughly underprivileged families. So I thought these kids may like the idea. And in that NGO and in that social enterprise, it was called Snehalaya. It's situated in Ahmednagar in Maharashtra, India. So there I got there was one senior person around 50 years of age. He was also an improviser. When I talked to him and I said, why don't you teach improv to kids here? They will really like it. He said, I tried, but I could not find some time and all. So I said, you are having a function. They were having a Diwali celebration. Diwali is a big festival in India. So they were planning a Diwali celebration for kids. So I said, can I teach 5 or 6 kids some improvisation and they can have a performance? I will also get to learn how to teach kids. And they may also enjoy the process. And this person, Tim, was so excited. He said, why not? I will also help you out. I will also join you. And we started teaching those kids. These kids, they had some experience in small dramas, performing in small dramas. But when these kids, they learned improvisation, so I taught them mirroring, and I taught them mirroring. I taught them how to make family portraits and association jump and all. And these kids were so engrossed. And when the kids realized that it is possible for them to act spontaneously and still entertain people, there was a huge jump in their confidence. And the environment around those kids, their parents also came to me and they said that I cannot believe that my kid can do it. My kid now is reading better. My kid now is writing better. And my kid now is more self-confident. And I believe now, even as a parent, I was skeptical of my child's dreams before, that if my child will be able to achieve something. But now, I have the belief that my child will be able to achieve something in their life, and I will be able to fight my life situations. And I love to involve with my child. So it improved their family environment. It improved the belief in the child with regards to the family, and it improved self-belief of the child. And the child was able to communicate better. Great. Just with 5 days of engagement. Amazing. So I realized if it turns out to be a long-term engagement and I could create a sustainable business model, even if I'm not able to create a sustainable business model, if I can teach these kids for free or whatever time I can find out, it will impact their lives positively in certain way. And it will bring a lot of self-improvement in me as a person, as an individual. It has helped me to develop a lot of empathy. And that is what I thrive for all the time. So it started as a pilot project, and now I have taught around 400 kids online and offline.
Wow.
in Mumbai during my post-graduation days. And then I have taught people in my hometown, around my hometown. And then I have taught people online also. Whatever short form games I know, I just customize according to the context and I teach them for better communication. And they realize, okay, even if I'm not an artist, I can use the skills of art for my benefit. And this just enhances the benefits of art and contributes to people's life in positive ways. And it drives me forward.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. What a great experience. And I'm just so impressed that, I thought you were going to be like, yeah, I wrote this paper and I got a great grade. And they were like, you are smart. But no, you actually did it. You like went out and tried it and then you made it work. And 400 kids, that's so much. That's so amazing. Like, once the world is a little bit more open for you and for everybody, are you going to try to continue with this program and like just go around to all the cities and like connect with groups? Like, I know that it's like, what's your plan? Who knows what the world has in store for us? But like, what was your hope right before the shutdown? Like, how did you plan on developing this?
Actually, throughout our post-graduation course, we have to work on the business model thing. Like we have to try to make it better. We have to research around it, and we have to make our plans better and present it to our professors. They would give you some feedback and all. But most of the time, if you do it for academic purposes, you can't you can't implement it for real, because what your professor actually after an year with a professor, you actually know what the professor would expect, and you will write it in your assignment and just foist it off your hands.
Yeah.
And you will like move ahead. But actually, I realized that being a contributor in a positive change, like I don't believe I can be an agent totally of positive change, but I can be a partner in positive change. So that drive has always been there, and I only know one way. I can't innovate something. Like I can't innovate a cycle that can fly or something like that. I can't innovate a technical product. I was very sure, but I can definitely do performing arts better. So I realized, okay, I'll make a business model around it and try to immerse myself as much as I can and keep trying it in different ways and try to make it sustainable. So after the end of my course, I already had my pilot done. It was part of an academic obligation also, and I am thankful for that. But even after the end of our pilot project, I kept on trying it through my communication club in college, and it was with the help of a lot of my other college mates as well. They were also involved. They were also liking the idea. So I realized that I've tried my idea in 3 or 4 different contexts. So my college is having snobbish education. Every college, if it asks you for money and a lot of money, and there are a lot of differences. So it's anyway, every college education is snobbish most of the time. It's a different statement to make. But and then if you're going to humble backgrounds, underprivileged kids, it's a very different context. Peculiarities of the context are very different. So I've tried my idea, and then if you're dealing with very small kids of sex workers and all, it's a very different context. And I dealt with certain companies as well. So I taught improvisation and theater techniques to people in different companies. So I was having an experience of all these 3 or 4 contexts just after my post-graduation ended, but I wanted to implement it on the ground, and suddenly pandemic happened. And I was also tired and saturated of my post-graduation. So 1 month I was like, okay, let this pandemic go. It will go in 1 month, and then I will be able to implement my idea. But somehow it didn't happen. The pandemic stayed for long. So after 2 months, I realized that, okay, now is the time that I have to find different ways to connect to people. So I connected with people that are tribal villages. They don't even know their mother language well. So the first task was to teach them their mother language using improvisation and other performing arts. And so I connected with them offline. 2.5 months later, we were allowed to connect with them, move around in our cities at least. We are not allowed to travel much, but commute here and there, but you were able to travel around the city. So I got a bunch of students from tribal villages here and there, and tried to teach them improvisation, and they loved it. And kids are so good, they would always play with your hair, they would always cheerfully play with you. And if you go to villages, they would always bring you some fruits and some good vegetables. It's always nice to eat with them together. So it was nice involving with them. So it drive me forward. And then one or two companies in India, I had my friends already there and they knew how I teach. So they approached me for teaching in companies also. So I got to know how I can teach improvisation and communication and other performing arts online. So I started connecting to other schools and government schools and said like, okay, if you can facilitate the session there, I can teach online. And my method, I never teach. I just involve people in a particular game and make them realize the benefit of the game for themselves, even if it's a small kid, even if it's an adult. So that way it has worked, and it's more of word of mouth now. And I'm in the process of making a website so that all the performances of children are stored at one particular place, and we are able to promote ourselves well, and we are able to scale up the impact well. So the website would be created in a few days. The name of my venture, social venture, is Let's Express.
Oh, nice.
So it's Let's Express because in India, Let's Express started with a mission. In India, the privilege of coming across, raising your voice for your rights, for your own dreams, is mostly limited to people who are economically privileged or socially privileged. The voice of the marginalized communities, economically disadvantaged communities, is totally downtrodden. It is totally subjugated, and they don't even have the access to develop themselves and bring out their voice. So I believe that the power and access and agency to raise your voice, to have your voice for what you believe in, for what you dream about yourself, and to make your life better, shall not only be limited to the privileged. Better freedom of speech, better freedom of resources around you shall also reach the people who are marginalized, who are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And so the best way to deal with them is to give them access and exposure to better opportunities and make them ready to use those opportunities. Many of the time, people are not ready. Even if you give them opportunities, the access, people are not ready. So the point is to do work on the ground, work with them, engage with them, help them have better self-belief. And you know what? These people from underprivileged communities, they have fought very difficult life conditions which you have never imagined. If you give them the belief that they can have better life, if you give them the access, exposure, agency, preparedness, they will surprise you in remarkable ways with how they can progress in their life with that imparted self-belief. That is where my mission lies. That is where Let's Express aims to work. If you do it through performing arts, it helps to create mindful harmony and spontaneity among people. And that is something, that can help to end violence in the society, that can help to reduce crime as well. People who know the benefits of the art and have better self-belief, it's very rare that they would resort to crime or something else, or they would resort to some dishonest means. They would always live for their own pride. They would always strive to make the life of other people better around them and their life also.
Yeah.
That's the magic of art. That's the essence of improvisation for me. And I believe it should reach as many people as possible. I believe every individual on this world shall at least experience improv comedy once.
Yeah. Absolutely. That would be great if everybody could do improv. Man, that is so wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing this, this journey of an idea that you had started out, in postgraduate school and now you're really enacting it to, you know, bring performing arts to lots of different people. That's, I mean, it's just such a wonderful pursuit. And, you know, you're doing such great work, and with such an open and kind heart. Like, that's really the intention of things matters. And, you know, your kindness when you talk about how much you care about the people and how you want to just give them a better opportunity. It's great. It's really wonderful. And I'm glad that you've had the opportunity to connect with as many people as you have. And I'm sure you'll be connecting with plenty more in the future.
Yeah, we plan to scale up, and we would see. And I will say one more thing. That's a dream, that I want to create many improv groups under one net of all these teenagers. And the name would be Impact Prov. It's a social impact created through improv. So Impact Prov.
Nice. So good.
That is what I aim to do.
Yeah,
so
build it. Absolutely. We're going to need it. You know, we need some way, once this all kind of figures itself out, we are going to need a way to reconnect with each other. Not just because there's a level of social anxiety involved with having to be stuck in your house, and then you go outside and you're like, what's that person doing? But also just like, you know, the larger sense of community in a city, and how we've all felt separate from one another, but really we're all in this together, and to work on it using improv is such a great thing. Oh, man, Vishok, so I want to ask you one final question, and then, you know, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your day. I wanted to ask you, other than this project, which is a great and potentially all-encompassing project, is there, you know, any other creative thing that you're working on that you're like excited about? Anything that you have been developing? Are you writing again? Are you performing a little bit more? What's your personal way of tapping into creativity these days?
I'm performing. The first preference is always improv. I am improvising with a lot of improvisers around the globe, and I'm happy that they are also liking the experience. Other than that, I'm in the process of writing a novel, and I want to finish it off soon. Like I believe I'll be able to finish it off in 2 months more, maybe.
Oh, nice.
And I'm engaging in 2 more things. I'm learning the Western flute, which is basically recorder, and I'm learning Indian martial art also, because I want this self-defense also to be like, if you really want to ask my aspirations for Let's Express, I want that, you know, Let's Express can be just teaching performing arts is not enough for those children. Okay. So they shall also learn how to use performing arts to bring better change in their community. Like the belief, that the confidence that they have got. So I will also want to incorporate a little bit of financial literacy, legal action, like using legal action for the benefit of the community around you. All these learnings through improvisation and other performing arts, how these children can group together and use it as a community. So self-defense shall also be an important part of it. So I'm learning Kalari Payattu. It's an Indian martial art form. It is believed to be the mother of all martial arts. So I'm learning that also. And I really love that, because I have been a huge fan of sports and fitness right from my childhood. So yeah, I'm learning that also. If I have to tell you, I request everyone to follow one creative pursuit in their life. It just makes your life better. And meditation also. Yeah, I meditate every day. That's also something.
Yeah. Great. Wow. You are so creative. You have so much going on. You're like writing a novel. What? How do you even have time for that? You're wild. Like, I mean, I thought maybe you were still writing, but I didn't realize you were like serious about it. That's amazing. Good for you. So many great things. You can be teaching them how to write novels. That can be another thing that Let's Express can do. Who would like to write a novel? I'll show you how.
Yes, that is. After honestly, if I have to tell you, it's a 3 year. After 2 years, I decide to scale it up well, and teach financial literacy, especially a little bit of little bit awareness about gender concepts, and making children feel comfortable about their own bodies, their self-esteem. Mostly work needs to be done on that, and a little bit of self-defense, a little bit of organic farming. All these things, if they are imparted to children in that particular education system and in that environment, despondent environment, I believe we'll be able to create self-dependent individuals who can contribute better to the benefit of the society. So for imparting to others, you also need to develop, and that is driving me forward.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing about your, the work that you're doing and all this. Like, you're really just doing a service. And I hope that as the world continues, hopefully soon, you can really develop your program and really help people with all these great skills. That it would be wonderful if you could create this whole education center with all these different things. Like, I believe in you. I believe that you'll do it, and it'll be great. Let me know when it happens. I'll come visit. It'll be great.
Definitely. I invite you to visit me any day, visit our country any day. I'll be happy. Actually, I live in a small hill station. My hometown is a very small hill station, and you may enjoy living in the hills. And it's a very funny place. We'll enjoy the food and delicacy. And I feel privileged. To connect with you, to such a senior improviser, having a delightful conversation with you, and being able to learn a lot from it. And I believe even if the world doesn't open on offline, I'll still teach kids online and bring a difference.
Yes.
That's how I will not stop.
Don't stop. Oh, so good. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Vishok. Oh, so great.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Amy. It was a privilege.
Thanks for listening to Yes But Why Podcast. Check out all our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com, or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.